and welcome to another episode of Your Next Favorite Movie. I am your host, Josh G. And today I am joined by a very special guest. He is the host of one of my new favorite podcasts, the Film Effect Podcast. Please welcome Ed to the show.
What's up, guys? How you doing, Josh?
I can't complain. How about yourself?
Hanging in there, man. Living day by day. Just in the middle of editing Monday's episode for The Wrestler, my birthday episode. So
awesome. This will that you will have a few episodes out before this one comes out. So
at the time I'm editing probably 2 months ago we did an episode for The Wrestler, and I'm in the middle of editing that.
So there you go. And I'm sure he'll have plenty of other great movies to catch up on by the time this comes out. I highly suggest you go check them out. And just so you have an idea what it's about, Ed, why don't you tell everybody about Film Effect?
Basically I started it up by myself, and then I quickly learned that it kind of helps the flow with getting a co-host. So one of my best friends, Sean, my co-host, he's just a guy that I've known for many, many years. And he's like my go-to fellow cinephile. And him and I have always had great conversations on movies and stuff. And I figured, let me ask him. Of course, he was all in. And so ever since our episode on Heat, he has been joining me. I think he's only missed a couple episodes since then. But we do a weekly we do a deep dive every Monday morning. We have a new episode. Pick a movie each week and do a real thorough deep dive on it. I mean, you've listened. We tend to go to deep lengths in time. Our episodes usually run the 2.5, 3 hour mark, but we really get in there, and also we do other stuff too. And of course, you've heard. We also spend the first half hour or so just talking about current movie news and stuff going on, and then we get into it. And when we get into it, we really get into it, and it's been fun. So that's the Film Effect, taking all things film to the full fact.
Yep, and I can back him up on that. Like you said, I listen quite a bit, so I am definitely a fan. So there you go.
Thank you.
Tonight,
we appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely. Tonight we're getting into a fun one, as I think this will probably be kicking off my October lineup. Actually, that's where I'm at in recording now.
Good film.
Yeah, we're going back to the year of my birth, 1985, to talk about The Return of the Living Dead. All right, so when did you first see this?
It's funny. I really was thinking about this earlier. I don't really have a actual time. I was definitely a kid. So there's a story behind that. So basically, when I was younger, when here in Baltimore, where I'm from, Baltimore, Maryland, Channel 54 on Saturday afternoons around 2:00 would have a 2-hour block called Nightmare Theater. And it was just, I have so many memories of growing up on Saturday afternoons watching that show, whether it be by myself at my grandmother's house where I spent my weekends, or with my childhood best friend Corey. And it was just one of the movies that Tarman he's just forever is embedded in my mind and my memory, and that whole basement scene. So I was definitely young, and when I say young, probably like 6 or 7 or maybe 8, somewhere around that range, early 90s for sure. And yeah, I've just been a fan ever since. So
okay, so to get started off, why don't you give a synopsis of the film?
Okay. Basically, it's about a couple of bumbling medical employees, warehouse employees, sorry, who accidentally release a gas that's in the basement that sets out over the nearby cemetery and brings the dead back to life. All while a gang of punks who are waiting for one of the employees to get off work. They're there, wrong place, wrong time, just trying to survive the night. It's embeds a lot of comedy with the horror. There's I'm having a brain fart. Let me pull up his name. Clu Gulager.
Oh
Sorry, it
yeah,
just
yeah.
came to me. Clu Gulager is plays Bert, the owner of the facility where this gas is held, and just him, James Karen, and Tom Matthews from Friday the 13th Part 6. He's those two are the bumbling employees who I mentioned, and their chemistry just is just one of the best. Their jokes and humor just bounce right off of each other, and yeah, so that's basically what the film's about. It's a zombie film. And there's kind of a story behind why it's called Return of the Living Dead, because it's people think, just common misconception that it's a sequel to Night of the Living Dead, and that's not the case at all. There's actually a story behind that involves George A. Romero. So I don't know if you want to hold off on that story or tell it now.
Go ahead, get into it.
All right, so basically, Night of the Living Dead was. Hang on, I'm pulling up my notes here. Give me a second. So, Night of the Living Dead was created by, of course, everyone knows George A. Romero, but John Russo also played a hand in that. And Russo, right after the release of the film back in 1968, parted ways. And Russo basically retained the rights to any titles featuring of the Living Dead, and Romero was free to make of the Dead. Uh, so Russo and Tom Fox, they got together and they brought it to life. It was originally set to be directed by Toby Hooper, but they actually got Dan O'Bannon, who wrote the movie anyway. Dan O'Bannon, for anyone who doesn't know, is like a prolific like writer, and he's a big name in the genre community. He was offered the director's seat after Hooper backed out to do Life Force, which O'Bannon was already writing. So he got to have a hand in both of those films. And that's how it came to be. It's just a technicality on the name. So, but it's not a direct sequel to Night of the Living Dead, even though if you watch the movie, there's kind of a meta reference to Night of the Living Dead. So you would think it's a sequel, although it's really, not. So.
Okay. So, as you know, we don't go into the full film effect, if you will, on this. We don't get into that. So I will go ahead and reference people. They have done an episode on Return of the Living Dead. If you want to hear the full deep dive, go back to their episode. Well, we kind of skim through that and get to the other stuff, because this is more of an introduction type podcast in case you haven't seen it. So go watch it and then you can go listen to their deep dive.
Yes, of course. So I enjoy talking about it. So
oh yeah, absolutely. So that's what I want to get to is, what is it about this that you love so much? Like, why is this your favorite horror film anyway?
Honestly, so it just recently became my favorite. For years, the original Dawn of the Dead was my favorite. Speaking of Romero, but I want to say it was about a year ago during the pandemic. We have a local record shop here in Baltimore called the Sound Garden, and they're my go-to place to buy like deep dive, like deep titles for like horror and genre stuff. And they have pretty much all the Scream Factory Blu-rays you can buy and stuff. So I was there one day and I picked up Return of the Living Dead, their copy of that, their edition of that. I'm sorry. I picked it up and I watched the movie, and then I watched everything on it, including both discs. It's a 2-discer, and I just watched hours upon hours. I don't really do that much. Like I hardly ever do that, to be honest with you. I just found myself watching the movie and loving it so much that I just picked up on everything else, including the work print of the film that's on the second disc. So I watched that too, and I found myself watching the film overall a lot around that time, and the soundtrack was constantly in my head. That has to explain why it's my favorite, especially since before this, like I said, Dawn of the Dead was my favorite, and this is like a completely different horror movie or a completely different zombie movie in general. So, so yeah, it's just a fun movie movie, guys. This is a really, really fun horror film with a very memorable soundtrack. So
Yeah, I completely agree. I also own that Scream Factory disc, but I have not dug into all the special stuff like you have. So
I highly recommend the documentary on there. So check
okay,
that out.
yeah, because like you said, I mean, Scream Factor. Good thing about Scream Factors, they do go all out for their releases, so you're gonna get some stuff with it.
No, I love them. I just picked up the House of Wax remake they put out last month, and I'm just they didn't. I wish they would have had more on that, but it was cool that they got, they were able to get Paris Hilton for a new interview. That
Did
was pretty
they?
cool.
Oh
So,
wow!
oh yeah, they got Paris, and they spend a good 15-20 minutes talking to her about the movie and making it and everything. They even brought up the See Paris Die campaign
I
and
was
how
gonna
she
say
loved
that
it and everything.
that seems to be the main thing I remember is that everybody just wanted to see Paris Hilton die in the movie. Like that was the whole thing behind that movie. Just they want to see her
Right.
die.
Yeah. It's funny too. I don't want to shift off and talk about it. Just 1 second. Everyone keeps talking about the See Paris Die campaign, and I wish I had memories of it. I honestly, personally, do not remember that campaign. It's a movie I saw in theaters twice. I mean, I
Oh
remember the
wow!
movie very well, but I don't remember the campaign being. Maybe it was in specific territories or something. I don't know. Around here in Baltimore, I don't recall there ever being a See Paris Die campaign because I went into it figuring she was going to die, but not knowing for sure just yet. So
I just remember it being at least where I'm at online more than anything because I'm not in an area that's ever going to get into it like that. But yeah, we'll move on from House of Wax. I probably need to revisit it
sure.
because otherwise I don't have any fond memories of it personally. But I've been hearing a lot of good things from people lately.
Very underrated sequel. I mean, very underrated remake. I'm sorry, not sequel, remake. Very underrated.
Okay, so let's go into what are your thoughts on the sequels to these films?
Um, yeah, the sequels are the sequel itself, Return of the Living Dead Part Two. It's a sort of a remake. Since it features the same two bumbling employees from the first film, played by James Karen and Tom Matthews. But they're not employees in this one. They're actually grave robbers. And it's pretty much the same thing over again. The gas getting out, but it's like a whole new cemetery. But it plays off just like the first one, in my opinion. And then the third movie, that's a whole different beast altogether. It's made by Brian Usna, who did a lot of time doing Stuart Gordon films
Right.
and whatnot. And
Yep.
he did Society in 1989. If you've never heard of that, folks, check out Society. And yeah, so
Just stay to the
the
end.
best way to describe, yeah, the shunning,
Yes.
the best way to describe, um, the best way to describe that movie in general is it's Romeo and Juliet with zombies. That's how I always tell people. That's my big sell for Return of the Living Dead Part 3. Um, Never even bothered with the other two films that were apparently uh, straight to sci-fi films back in 2005. They shot them
Right.
back to back in Bulgaria or somewhere. But yeah. So
Yeah, I remember
that's
one
my
being
take.
called Rave to the Grave, maybe.
Yeah, Rage to the Grave is the one that sticks out, but I don't remember the other one's called. I
I don't
cannot remember
either.
for the life of me. So
And to be honest, as you talk about it, I don't think I've ever seen the second one. I remember watching the third one because a friend of mine rented it, and all I can remember from it is the girl being like tied up in chains or whatever, and she's laying there lifeless, and then she at the camera to scare. As a
right,
kid, it got
right,
a good
right.
little jump scare, but that's really all I remember of that one too.
So yeah.
All right, so let's say they do something that you're probably gonna hate, and that's remake this. Yeah, I know we all hate the remake, but we got to go through with it. Who would you like to see in some of these roles? If you got to at least pick the casting, if it had to be done, you got to pick.
Okay. I actually thought about this for quite some time this afternoon. So here's what I came up with. So Bert, the Clue Gulager character
Right.
role, I'm thinking Richard Jenkins from
Okay.
Cabin in the Woods,
Yep.
there's something about every Farley Brothers movie. Just look up I'm sure he's a guy that everyone listening or doesn't know who Richard Jenkins is. Google him, you'll know right away who I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think.
that he'd be perfect for Bert.
Okay.
Um, he's got the humor, and he's already dipped his toes in genre. Cabin in the Woods, like I just mentioned, and he was in the remake to Let the Right One In. So
Oh, that's
that
right.
I really
Yes.
enjoyed back in 2010. He was the stranger or whatever,
Yeah.
the father. So yeah, as far as Ernie goes, who is Don Calfa's character, who works over at the morgue or the mortuary next door, I would cast John Carroll Lynch, who
Oh,
most people probably know him as Twisty the Clown from American Horror Story. But he's also a guy whose face a lot of people recognize if you look him up. He's been in a lot of genre stuff. And he's got comedic timing too. I think he'd be a good Ernie to bounce off of Richard Jenkins. For Frank, I was thinking I was going a little younger. Michael Shannon stuck out to me. I like to see and Freddie, who's the Tom Matthews character, like Keith Stanfield. I
oh,
think it'd
okay.
be different. I'm a huge fan of that guy, and I just think that it'd be different, and that's what I like to see and stuff. You know, if you're gonna do a remake, I want to see something different, something, take a chance. So Keith Stanfield and Michael Shannon, come on, those two bouncing off one another for an hour and a half. That in itself sells the film. And as far as trash, because
Yep.
that's something that everyone's probably like curious what I was gonna call for that one. Um, Serena Vincent, a lot of people may not know who she is. She was in Cabin Fever. And the reason she stuck out is because of the whole tie-ins to the genre that she's done over the years. Um, there was apparently a sequel to House on Haunted Hill that she was in. So I had no idea. When I was doing my research, I found that out. But in not another teen movie,
Yeah.
she
That's what I
plays
was
a
saying.
character who's just new the entire
Yeah.
movie. So I mean, trash.
I
It
was gonna
goes.
bring that up. I was like, she's obviously comfortable with it after not another teen movie. So
Yeah,
yeah, I
exactly,
remember that.
exactly. And then finally, her male companion, Suicide. I was going different. I don't know, Liam Hemsworth. We'll throw him in there. So, um, so yeah, that's my take. That's that. I want to see that movie. Let's remake it and sell and get all those people in it. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's get it done. Let's just make sure Tarman is practical. I don't want a CGI Tarman.
Oh God, no. God,
Yeah, I
no.
know.
You know,
That would be the thing I'd
no,
be
no,
most
no,
afraid
no,
of, is that they go CGI with. And
no. And don't use the design for Tarman from part two either. It's terrible. Because spoiler alert, Tarman comes back in Return of the Living Dead part two, and it's for some reason it's a different design and it's terrible.
oh,
So that's all.
all right, Ed. It's the last thing. You gotta sell this movie to someone who hasn't seen it, whether they're not a horror fan, they just haven't taken a chance on this. Maybe they think it's a sequel to Night of the Living Dead, and they didn't like that, and they don't realize. Sell this movie.
All right. Look, guys, we all gotta have a little fun in our lives, right? Especially times like this. I keep mentioning it, but it's the truth. This movie is the definition of fun. It's popcorn fun. It's dumb fun. Um, if you like your horror, it's got great effects. Um, it's got just characters of good chemistry. It never really overstays its welcome. It's got that perfect 85 to 90-minute time, the running time, which means, it's in and out, and you wham bam, thank you, ma'am. There's just no BS. So much fun. I keep on using that word, but it's the truth. And
Yep.
I just feel like, times like this, we could all have a little fun in our lives. And it's just the perfect movie on a Saturday night to just, pop, if your popcorn's your thing, it's perfectly not mine, but a lot of people seem to like it. And if, just make your popcorn, kick back with your significant other or your buddies or just yourself and chew it up. It's my favorite horror movie for a reason, and I think I, know what good horror is. At least I think I do. But I don't know. Before I get too cocky, no, it's just a really fun movie. It's one hell of a good ride. All the actors are great in it, and yeah, you got James Cairn and Don Calfa and Clu Gulager. You can't go wrong with those three.
I know. I completely agree. And I think you've done that really well. So I think that's going to wrap this one up. Ed, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you online, find the show?
All right, guys. The Film Effect Podcast is on, well, we have a website, podpage.com/the-film-effect-podcast. If you want to talk to us, Twitter is the best way to get a hold of us, and that's at Film Effect Pod. Instagram and Facebook, we're it's / the Film Effect Podcast is our handle. Website, if you want to shoot us a message or a request for a future film, maybe we'll consider it. The Film Effect Podcast at gmail.com. And yeah, speaking of, how's TikTok going for you?
Not great. I am not cut out for TikTok, is what I'm realizing.
I had to throw that in there.
Yeah, sometimes I throw that out there. Sometimes I don't. I was doing like these little short mini reviews, but I've even stopped that at this point. So I need to get back on it, but I don't know if it was helping or not. I'm definitely not cut out for the TikTok crowd. So
that's all right.
Yeah. But as always, you can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at ynfmoviepod. Available wherever you get your podcast. And be sure to check back next week as I'll have another movie and another guest. And who knows, that may become your next favorite movie. You guys take care. I'll talk to you next time.